Please, don't hit me. The cry echoed through the Seattle harbor, yellow lights casting eerie shadows across steel containers. Alex Reed, cornered against cold metal, felt his heart hammering as several men advanced. The tall one raised his fist, demanding signatures on documents that would conceal illegal shipments. Wind whistled through the port cranes while waves crashed against the dock. Not a soul stepped forward until a calm voice cut through the darkness. Try touching him and see what happens. The group turned to face a solitary figure in oil-stained coveralls, hands calloused from labor, but eyes sharp as steel. Michael Thompson stood firm, his military posture unmistakable despite the humble dock worker attire. Alex had never felt more vulnerable. As CEO of Reed Enterprises, he was accustomed to boardrooms and power plays, not physical threats. Born to wealth and groomed to maintain his family's dynasty, he'd spent years crafting a perfect facade, including a sham marriage to model Julia that ended quietly last year. His secret remained hidden behind corporate walls. Nobody could know the heir to Reed Enterprises was gay. Michael's life couldn't have been more different. At 37, the former military lawyer had traded courtrooms for cargo holds after losing his husband David to cancer 3 years ago. Now he raised their adopted son Ethan alone in a modest apartment overlooking the harbor. Every morning, 9-year-old Ethan would fold paper boats inscribed with the word hope, believing someday they would reach the open ocean. David's navy blue scarf still hung by their door, like a guardian of precious memories. The confrontation dissolved as the management group retreated, unwilling to challenge the experienced gaze of the former serviceman. After they disappeared, Alex straightened his designer coat with trembling hands. "Thank you," he whispered. Michael simply nodded. Everyone deserves to be safe. Their eyes met briefly before Michael turned toward the employee parking lot, unaware that this moment would set in motion events that would challenge everything both men believed about family, authenticity, and love. That night, Michael found Ethan asleep surrounded by paper boats. One was different. Instead of just hope, it read hope for everyone. Michael smiled softly. Even at 9, his son understood that hope wasn't something to keep for yourself. Meanwhile, across Seattle in his sterile penthouse, Alex stared at harbor lights, wondering about the dock worker who'd protected a stranger without asking questions. In a world where every interaction came with expectations, Michael's simple act of kindness felt revolutionary. What happens when someone sees your true self before you're ready to reveal it? Sometimes courage wears coveralls, and sometimes family is found in the most unexpected places. If stories that touch the heart matter to you, subscribe to Heart Stories, where we believe everyone deserves to sail their own boat of hope toward belonging. Seattle spring brought misty mornings to the harbor as Alex found himself returning again and again. He claimed to be investigating shipment discrepancies, but his eyes constantly searched for Michael among the containers and cranes. The dock workers noticed, whispering when the CEO in his polished shoes navigated puddles to speak with the quiet single father. Sam Rodriguez watched with particular caution, his own secret kept safely beneath rough jokes and calculated distance from the others. Alex first visited Michael's apartment on a rainy Sunday afternoon. The modest 2-bedroom unit felt more like a home than his own luxury penthouse ever had. Ethan answered the door, immediately pulling Alex to see his collection of paper boats arranged on the windowsill. "This one has all our names," Ethan explained, pointing to a blue vessel with Michael, Ethan, David, written in careful child's handwriting. "Who's David?" Alex asked softly. "My other dad. He lives in heaven now, but he still watches us." Michael appeared in the doorway, his expression a complex mixture of pride and pain. The navy blue scarf hanging by the door suddenly made sense. Over coffee at the chipped kitchen table, Michael revealed fragments of his past. He'd been a military lawyer with a promising career until David's diagnosis changed everything. "The military wasn't kind to families like ours," he explained. "We fought twice as hard for half the recognition." After David died, Michael left the service to give Ethan stability, trading legal briefs for freight manifests. The choice cost him his career but gave his son a home. Alex listened, struck by a courage so different from anything he'd known in corporate boardrooms. That evening, Alex's phone lit up with his sister Rachel's name. "Dad's asking questions about your harbor visits," she warned. The only family member who knew his truth, Rachel had been protecting Alex's secret for years. "Be careful. Alex, the board is watching too." His family's shipping empire had been built by 3 generations of Reed men, each playing their part perfectly. Alex's great-uncle, the previous CEO, had died alone, his own secrets buried with him. Before passing, he'd named Alex his successor with a cryptic message: "Maybe you'll find the courage I never had." At Ethan's school, Ms. Carter noticed the boy's mood improving. The paper boats that once earned him mockery now intrigued his classmates. "Ethan told us about your visitor," she mentioned when Michael picked up his son. Her eyes conveyed understanding beyond her words. "It's good for him to see possibilities." Michael nodded, grateful for allies in unexpected places. Later that week, when another parent complained about that gay dock worker's child being in the same class as her son, Ms. Carter's response was swift and firm. "In my classroom, we celebrate all families." Seattle pride arrived in colorful waves along the waterfront. Michael and Ethan marched with other harbor families. Ethan proudly holding a sign reading, "My family floats with pride," hidden behind sunglasses. Alex watched from the sidelines, something inside him cracking open at the sight of their joy. Sam Rodriguez spotted him there, their eyes meeting in silent recognition. Later that day, after most workers had left, Sam approached Michael at the quiet edge of the dock. "The CEO who keeps visiting, he's like us, isn't he?" Michael considered this. "That's his story to tell, not mine." Sam nodded, understanding the weight of unspoken truths. As summer deepened, Alex found himself sitting beside Michael on a secluded pier, watching Ethan launch his boats into the calm evening water. "My family would dismantle everything if they knew," Alex confessed. Michael didn't offer empty reassurances. Instead, he spoke a truth learned through loss. Living behind walls might protect you from pain, but it also keeps out love. The harbor lights reflected in the water like stars fallen to earth, illuminating choices not yet made, but suddenly imaginable. Sometimes authenticity begins with a single honest word, and sometimes strength is measured not in what we keep, but in what we're brave enough to release. Thunder rumbled across Seattle's skyline as harbor workers gathered with signs and determination. The strike began after management slashed healthcare benefits, leaving families like Michael's vulnerable. Alex arrived at the picket line to find his company logo on protest signs. His father's cost-cutting decisions now manifested in the faces of people he'd grown to care about. Michael stood resolute among them, surprise flickering across his features when he spotted Alex approaching through the rain. "The board expects me to break this strike," Alex admitted quietly as they stood beneath the shelter of a loading crane. Ethan's latest paper boat floated in a puddle between them, the word justice replacing his usual hope. The distance between their worlds had never felt more vast or more meaningless. Michael's gaze remained steady. "Then you have a choice to make." That evening, against his father's explicit instructions, Alex ordered company negotiators to restore benefits and improve safety conditions. The headline, "Reed Air sides with workers," spread across Seattle business pages by morning. The Reed family boardroom felt arctic despite summer heat when Alex was summoned days later. Photographs slid across polished mahogany, images of him with Michael and Ethan at the harbor, at a local diner, walking together through Pike Place Market. "Explain this fascination with the dock worker," his father demanded, the word laced with disdain. Before Alex could answer, the family attorney interjected with news that surveillance had captured more than expected, evidence linking board members, including Alex's father, to smuggling operations through company ships. "We need you to sign these documents," the attorney stated coldly. "The family legacy depends on discretion." Alex felt the walls closing in as security protocols changed overnight. His office access became restricted, his calls monitored. Rachel warned him through coded texts that private investigators followed him constantly. The ultimatum arrived formally on Reed Enterprises' letterhead: sign the cover-up documents by week's end or lose everything. Position, inheritance, and the company reforms he'd quietly implemented. Alex paced his penthouse, the harbor visible but unreachable through rain-streaked windows. For the first time, the luxury surrounding him felt like a prison rather than privilege. Meanwhile, Michael noticed increased security at the docks, his work schedule mysteriously altered to areas away from incoming shipments. Sam Rodriguez approached during break with worry etched across his face. "They're watching us all, especially you." That night, while Ethan slept, Michael discovered his military legal credentials had been quietly accessed through database searches. Old instincts resurfaced. Someone was building a case, not just against the smuggling operations, but potentially against him. The custody arrangement for Ethan suddenly felt precarious. Under cover of fog, Alex returned to the harbor to photograph evidence from shipping manifests. The attack came swiftly, 3 men emerging from shadows between containers. "The family sends regards," one whispered before fists connected with flesh. Through pain and disorientation, Alex heard Michael's voice, then saw him battling multiple assailants. The sickening sound of metal striking bone echoed as Michael fell, protecting him. Blood pooled on concrete as harbor security lights flooded the area. Emergency sirens wailing in the distance. Hours blurred in the hospital waiting room. Ethan's small hand gripped Alex's tightly, his young face pale with fear. Will Papa Michael have to go to heaven like Daddy David did? The question pierced deeper than any wound. Ms. Carter arrived to sit with them, her classroom authority now a quiet strength. When the doctor finally appeared, his news was cautiously positive Michael would recover, though not quickly. In that sterile corridor beneath fluorescent lights, Alex made his decision. The papers in his briefcase, evidence of every illegal shipment, every falsified document, every board member involved, would go public, regardless of personal cost. Beside Michael's hospital bed, Alex watched the gentle rise and fall of his chest. Bandages covered wounds taken on his behalf, physical manifestations of a protection Alex had never known before. He thought about Ethan's paper boats and their messages of hope, about walls that keep out love, about choices that define not just a moment, but a life. Sometimes courage isn't found in grand gestures, but in simple truths finally spoken aloud. Sometimes family isn't defined by the blood in your veins, but by who bleeds for you when the world turns cold. Morning light streamed through hospital blinds as Michael opened his eyes to find Alex asleep in the visitor's chair. Suit rumpled in dark circles beneath his eyes. A stack of documents lay open on his lap, evidence compiled against his own family. Michael's movements stirred Alex awake, their eyes meeting in silent recognition of boundaries crossed and decisions made. "I'm holding a press conference tomorrow," Alex said quietly. Michael's hand found his, fingers intertwining for the first time. "Whatever happens, you won't face it alone." Rachel arrived with coffee and determination, her corporate armor shed for jeans and unwavering loyalty. "The board's called an emergency meeting to remove you," she reported, spreading newspapers across the hospital tray table. "They're claiming mental instability." She paused, meeting her brother's gaze. "It's time. Alex, no more hiding." Later that day, as Michael slept, Ethan carefully placed a paper boat on his bedside table. This one bore a new message, "Our family," with 3 names written beneath: Michael, Ethan, and Alex. Some truths are recognized by children long before adults find words to claim them. Camera flashes exploded like silent lightning as Alex approached the podium. Behind him stood Rachel. Beside her, the federal investigators who had received his evidence hours earlier. Alex's prepared statement felt suddenly insufficient as he looked out at the assembled press. Instead, he spoke from a place deeper than rehearsed words. "I've spent my life hiding who I am to protect a legacy built on exploitation. Today, that ends." He detailed the smuggling operations, the worker safety violations, the systematic corruption within Reed Enterprises. Then came the truth he'd never spoken publicly. I am a gay man who has lived in fear of disappointing my family. I now understand that their approval came at a cost too high. My authentic self. The unexpected came halfway through questions. Alex's father appeared at the back of the room, moving slowly forward until he stood before his son. Silence descended as cameras captured their confrontation. "I've known you were gay since you were 16, he said, voice rough with emotion none had witnessed before. "I thought pushing you into the family mold would protect you. Instead, I only taught you shame." His shoulders slumped beneath his impeccable suit. "I failed you, Alex. I cannot undo that damage, but I can stop causing more." He turned to the cameras. "My son speaks the truth about our company. The responsibility is mine." Not all reactions brought reconciliation. By nightfall, remaining board members had frozen Alex's assets, launched a vicious media campaign questioning his stability, and filed legal motions to reclaim company control. More devastating was the custody petition filed against Michael, citing his injuries and relationship with Alex as creating an unsuitable environment for Ethan. The documents claimed the child would be better served in foster care than with his adoptive father. The courthouse became a battleground where private lives faced public judgment. Sam Rodriguez arrived at Michael's hospital room with unexpected news. "I'm testifying," his hands trembled slightly as he continued, "about being gay at the harbor, about the discrimination, all of it." Other dock workers followed, forming a protective circle around their own. Ms. Carter organized fellow teachers and parents, creating character statements in educational assessments, supporting Ethan's stable home life. The community Michael had served quietly for years now stood visibly in his corner, transforming a legal attack into a movement for recognition. The custody hearing fell silent as Ethan approached the judge's bench, clutching a single paper boat. At 9 years old, his voice wavered, but his words carried clearly through the courtroom. "My papa Michael taught me that family means choosing each other every day, even when it's hard. We choose each other, me and Papa, and Alex too." He placed the boat before the judge. "Hope is strongest when we share it." There wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom as the judge ruled in Michael's favor, declaring the petition a transparent attempt to weaponize a child's well-being against his father's right to happiness. Victory came at a price. Though Alex retained some personal assets through Rachel's foresight, he lost his position, his social standing, and most of his fortune. Yet watching Michael and Ethan waiting for him outside the final legal proceeding, Alex felt wealthier than he'd ever been. That evening, they walked together along the harbor edge, Ethan running ahead to launch a fleet of paper boats into the gentle current. "I don't know how to be anything but a CEO," Alex admitted. Michael's hand found his. "You'll learn, Butaneta. We have time." Beneath the fading light, 3 figures stood outlined against the water. Different heights, different journeys, now facing the same horizon. Sometimes losing everything you thought defined you reveals the person you were always meant to become. Autumn painted Seattle in amber and crimson as Alex moved into a modest apartment 3 blocks from Michael and Ethan. His first morning making breakfast alone resulted in burned toast and unexpected tears. Not of regret, but release. Years of performing perfectionism crumbled with each new domestic failure and triumph. Michael taught him to grocery shop on a budget. Ethan showed him how to properly fold laundry. Slowly, Alex discovered the person behind the CEO facade, someone who laughed more freely, who slept more soundly, who no longer flinched at casual touch. The Hope Fleet Foundation began with the remains of Alex's personal fortune. Rachel contributed her savings, helping secure office space at the harbor where they offered educational scholarships for dock workers' children and LGBTQ+ youth. Ethan appointed himself official Hope Ambassador, insisting each grant notification include a hand-folded paper boat. Their first recipient, a teenage girl whose father worked night shifts to support her engineering dreams, later became their first intern. Word spread through Seattle's maritime community, something authentic was growing at the edges of corporate America. Documentary filmmaker Jenna Chen approached them 6 months later. cameras capturing moments both ordinary and profound. Paper Boats of Hope premiered at Seattle's Independent Film Festival, then traveled to communities across America. Audiences witnessed Michael helping Ethan with homework, Alex mastering budget spreadsheets at their kitchen table, all three planting sunflowers outside the harbor office. These glimpses of chosen family sparked conversations in living rooms and legislative halls alike. Letters arrived daily from people finding courage in their story, teenagers coming out to parents, workers challenging discrimination, families redefining themselves beyond traditional boundaries. 1 year after the press conference, Harbor Pride expanded beyond its original parade. Now it included family resource fairs, legal clinics, and Ethan's art installation of 1,000 paper boats floating in Elliott Bay, each carrying messages from community members. Sam Rodriguez led the harbor workers contingent. His initial caution transformed into vocal advocacy. Ms. Carter brought her entire class to participate, the school curriculum now including diverse family structures. Even Alex's father attended quietly, watching from a distance as his son addressed the gathered crowd. Michael's hands steady at his back. The small beach house came into their lives unexpectedly, a foreclosure property near Puget Sound with peeling paint and endless possibility. Together, they sanded floors, replaced windows, and painted walls the color of ocean and sky. Ethan's room overlooked the water, perfectly positioned for launching paper boats directly toward the horizon. On warm evenings, they sat on their weathered deck watching container ships pass. The same vessels that once carried smuggled goods now operated under new management with transparent practices. Sometimes healing happens not by escaping the past, but by transforming it. Michael proposed on the anniversary of the Hope Fleet Foundation, kneeling on the dock where they first met. The simple silver band held no diamonds, but something more precious. Inscribed inside were the words, courage, hope, family with space for their wedding date. Ethan served as best man at their harbor ceremony, proudly presenting the rings nestled in a paper boat. Their vows echoed the journey that brought them together to see each other truly, to choose each other daily, to build something authentic in a world of facades. As lanterns illuminated the night, three voices joined in promises that transcended legal documents, though those were finally in order too. Looking out at the moonlight silvering Puget Sound, Alex Reed Thompson reflected on everything surrendered and gained. The billion-dollar empire had never filled the emptiness that this small family erased with simple presence. From their deck, he could see Ethan's latest creation, a large paper boat bearing the words, Hope Fleet Family, catching the final rays of sunset as it journeyed toward open water. The truest wealth, Alex had learned, wasn't measured in assets or accomplishments, but in the courage to be seen and loved exactly as you are. Has someone in your life shown you what real family means? Someone who chose you when the world turned away? Share your story in the comments below. And if this journey touched your heart, subscribe to Heart Stories, where we believe every authentic life deserves to be celebrated and every paper boat of hope deserves to reach the ocean.